thank Stephen for that wonderful, with those wonderful sentiments, and the whole Sherbrooke community. They've been just incredible, especially Amy, Jamie, Neil, and Stephen. And as well as all of the people in Sheep Harbor who worked so hard to support what is now going to become a project for Nova Scotia and for Canada. I also want to acknowledge a special member of our team, my partner and invaluable team member, Michael Mountain, as well as all of our board members, our advisors, staff, volunteers, everyone. And last but not least, we want to thank Munchkin Incorporated. They are a California-based baby company, they don't make babies, they make products for babies and kids. And they have supported our work from the very beginning, and we are grateful. And also want to thank the Maritime Museum for hosting this wonderful event. So I'm going to turn things over to Charles again.
So before we open it up to questions, I just want to mention that there are press releases that are now on the back table, or will be shortly on the back table. So be sure you pick up the formal press release that we are releasing globally as we speak now. And also want to mention that there are opportunities tomorrow for interviews on site in Port Ilford. Lori and I will be there. We can organize to actually be at this site, either on that beach or elsewhere, to do interviews and the like, if that is helpful for any of the media who are present. So thank you all very much. This has been a wonderful day for us. We're very excited about the next steps, and certainly we open it up to any questions that you have. Thank you. Yes, sir.
How is it going to be set up?
So the question is, how's it going to be set up? How's it going to work? Is that your question?
Yes, sir.
Well, this is really, I think, the beginning of our answering that question with a level of specificity that's directly related to this site. So we have a vision. We pictured it in our rendering at the end of that 5-minute film, which is an area that you net off roughly 40 hectares in space, 100 acres of water space, more than 300 times the size of any tank that whales have been in captivity. And you net that off with a buoy line and weights to the bottom, and there are weights embedded in the nets so that they can't billow during tidal flow, so that you always have a barrier and none of the animals can get caught in that net. Along the shoreline, there will be infrastructure for the staff. These animals have never caught live fish. They don't know that live fish are food. They've been fed thawed, frozen fish their whole lives. We will continue that same process. We will provide them 24/7 care, full-time veterinary staff, animal care staff, people to provide enrichment for them in that 40-hectare environment or larger. But how that will actually look, what the ingredients will be, where buildings will be, what buildings there will be, where the interpretive center would go adjacent to or nearby, are all the steps that we now have the privilege of engaging in with the community, with Stephen and the Sherbrooke Village group, with the fishers, with First Nations. That's the process we begin now, as well as the somewhat more tedious process of permitting applications, leasing, and licensing.
So how long will that process take?
An hour and a half. The question is, how How long will that process take? We were hoping to finish tomorrow after the interviews in Sherbrooke and in Port Hilford. But in fact, we don't know the answer to that. It is a long process. There are a number of steps, and very frankly, the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture, DFO, other agencies, and ourselves have never been through it before. This is the first. So as we're speaking, we've had conversations yesterday, the day before, and for weeks and months prior about how that process will proceed. And so our objective is to welcome the first animals, the first whales, into this sanctuary before the end of 2021. That's a stretch goal. But if you don't have a stretch goal, if you don't have something that you desperately want to achieve, you never get there. And that's our objective, and we hope that all of you and the regulatory agencies will work hand in hand with us to try to achieve a timeline like that.
How many whales did you ultimately fit in the sanctuary?
Okay. The question is how many whales would we ultimately fit in a sanctuary? So again, thinking of our vision of 40 hectares or 100 acres of water space, our preliminary analyses of that are that that's an appropriate space. An appropriate space, I mean the carrying capacity of that environment for whales should be 5 to 8 beluga whales, if they're, if that's the plan. Now, we are now, today, this week, deploying sensors into this bay to begin to do the analyses of the water quality, the flow rates, the temperature variations, how much the water transitions into the bay and out and when. All of that information will be used to then specify the appropriate number of whales for the space that we enclose. So we have preliminary ideas. Now we need to do the studies that are part and parcel of the environmental review we will engage in with the regulatory bodies.
Are you looking at just belugas?
The question is, are we looking at just belugas? The issues around captivity, as you heard in the short film, there are over 3,000 whales and dolphins in captivity. Orca and beluga, as Lori pointed out, suffer more than any other species in marine parks. So our focus is certainly on both. There are more beluga than there are orca in captivity. In Canada alone, in Marineland of Canada, there are some over 50 belugas at Marineland of Canada and 1 orca. So we anticipate that this will be designed to relate to to relate to beluga. So it's designed to relate specifically and foremost to beluga. And should an orca become available, we would like to work with the community to see if it's possible to bring an orca to such a facility. But all of that has to be planned with the community, with the stakeholders, and frankly, with the captive industry that has the whales. So unlike many projects that are saying, there's no connection between the organizations, companies, and facilities that have the whales and the work that we do, that can't be the case. We have to be working with those organizations to create a new future for the whales.